first intervention, would you prefer to speak here or speak there? Either way. Over there. Okay.
Well, it is time. We are going to start the plenary session 3, Pathways toward a Green Economy in the Asia Pacific. The panel is already seated. The moderator is Hideyuki Mori, President of IJES. Mr. Mori.
For your kind introduction. And thank you very much for your participation. I do believe you have gone through various sessions included for this year's ISAP, and I hope you enjoyed all these discussions regarding how to promote green economy in this region. And this is going to be a session close to the end of this year's ISAP. And therefore, intention is to wrap up important points presented and discussed in various sessions of ISAP. But that itself is a challenge. And therefore, we try, but perhaps we make a few presentations to catch important messages for the promotion of green economy here. And we have 3 panel members for this session. And each one of these panel members will make a presentation first, brief presentation first. And then the floor is open for all of you to express your views on this issue and your observations you have developed during various sessions of this forum. So first, may I request Dr. Zachary for his presentation. And he is, as you know very well, he is the chairperson of very important mechanism developed for biodiversity conservation. He is the chairperson of what we call IPBEST, International Intergovernmental Platform for Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. And his presentation is from that angle to promote agenda related to that. So, Dr. Zachary, please.
Thank you, Morrison. Thank you again for all those present. In the 10 minutes that I'm given, I'll try to give you a very quick snapshot where we are so that we are on the same page. So I was asked to dwell on this, the green economy and biodiversity and ecosystem services regional perspective. Just to go one step behind, this is the warning expressed by Mr. Ban Ki-moon, I think about 2 years ago, when he noted that the world is failing in biodiversity struggle, despite the fact that species are disappearing at a very high rate. And the global community has missed this target that it set itself to reduce biodiversity loss. The 2010 target was not achieved. The problem, as Ban Ki-moon is saying here, too many people still fail to grasp the implication of this destruction of these plants and animals. And one of the problem for that is the playing catch-up on the part of the biodiversity community compared to those in the climate change arena. So there is a case really to close the loop where issues on global warming, issues on biodiversity loss could be elevated to those on global warming, which is really getting into the realm of development. The issue of biodiversity is so crucial. In this slide, I just quickly want to show you how we are so dependent on the so-called web of life, those ecosystem services on the left, provisioning, regulating, cultural, supporting, are really important and having an impact on our own security, basic material for good life, health, and the social relations. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about biodiversity and ecosystem services, is not an issue for the Asia-Pacific region alone. It is a global problem in Africa, Latin America, or in some other parts in Eastern Europe and so on. And, but we must start embracing the green economy, which is simply put, is characterized by low carbon emissions, highly efficient use of resources, and social inclusiveness. Let me just point out this difference between the concept of a green economy and sustainable development. The green economy is conceptually different in that it focuses specifically on the economic pillar. It does not aim to replace sustainable development, but rather complement it by emphasizing the importance of improving the sustainability of the global economy. And what are the implications of a green economy for poverty reduction, which is a very important factor in sustainable development? A green economy is central to reducing poverty. A green economy has the potential to create jobs in certain sectors, such as in waste management and ecological restoration. And a stronger recognition of the economic significance of nature will promote new business opportunities, developing markets for ecosystem goods, example in sustainable agriculture, timber, and services. Here we listed a few, like tourism and water regulation. Then what does the green economy imply for biodiversity conservation? GE should be based on a stronger integration of the economic value of biod and natural capital in economic decision. Because of its central role in providing the ecosystem services upon which economic activity depends, biodiversity should be considered as the underpinning foundation of a green economy. Therefore, conservation should be viewed as an area of economic opportunity and not a constraint. Biodiversity can generate economic benefits, and ecosystem, for example, play a critical role in mitigating risks. For example, when mangroves act as natural forms of protection against storm damage. So biodiversity is not only central to income generation, it can also be an important means at saving money. So on that basis, Mr. Chairman, I listed 3 pathways of biodiversity-based green economy. 1, ecosystem and biodiversity should be managed to build resilience. Why? Healthy ecosystems represent the foundation of a resilient and truly sustainable economy. And here we argue the case for it. Second, mainstreaming ecosystem values in the economy. This is a message we would try to get for some time now, but with minimal impact or success. There is a need to change current accounting and planning frameworks to ensure that ecosystem values are reflected in economic decisions and policies. greater investment in natural capital can play a key role in supporting a transition by generating income and creating jobs in green markets. We have alluded to that earlier. Finally, one other pathway is developing an appropriate governance model for a green economy. It has to be based on strong governance principles, namely access to information, public participation, and horizontal decision-making. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, there's already targets being bandied around out there, and the most well-known is, of course, the IG biodiversity targets, which was agreed at the Nagoya Conference of Parties of the CBD about 2 years ago. And in these 5 goals, what I've just pointed out, the 3 pathways are included. These are some of the details of the strategic goals. We don't need to go over this. But finally, since the chairman has mentioned this, I think it's imperative that we should utilize IPBEST to strengthen linkage between science and policy, taking into consideration the 4 functions of IPBEST. And those are prioritization of key scientific info for policymakers, conducting assessments at the global, regional, and sub-regional levels, conducting assessment on thematic issues, like, for instance, pollination and how it relates to food security. Third, identifying policy-relevant tools and methodologies. And fourthly, capacity building to improve the science policy interface. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zachary, for your very excellent presentation about how to promote this green agenda in this region, focusing in particular upon biodiversity conservation and ecosystem services. A couple of points I'd like to highlight is this change in our understanding of ecosystem conservation of biodiversity and ecosystem management. We should not consider it as a constraint, but it's better to think about it as opportunities, which could address poverty and economic growth. With this, may I request Dr. Park for your presentation, and he has been serving for UNEP's regional office for Asia and Pacific for the last 4 years. And he has been a great leader for this region to promote this agenda. And he is going to today speak about green economy, making a difference for people and the environment. So, Dr. Park, please.
Thank you, Mori-san, for your kind introduction. What I will do is, yesterday and today, throughout the today, you all heard about what a green economy is, and so I will skip that part, and I will just briefly share with you what we all agreed on, what is the challenges in this region, and then briefly what was discussed yesterday, and then based on that, I will introduce a few more the policy tools, and also there was again emphasis on the financial mechanisms, and so the existing financial mechanisms, and also the ongoing discussing financial mechanisms, and then share with you my views from my personal experience as the UNEP Regional Director for the last 5 years, and so why we haven't achieved what we have tried. And so it is just my own view from my own experience. And so I think that one of the reasons we are here together is to share with each of us the ideas and views each of us has, and to find the better solutions to solve the goals, common goals we have. So Asia Pacific, as we all know, this is the half of the world population is living, and the most the carbon emitting the regions and so on. So I will skip that part. And the trends in this region, as you have all heard, fast economic growth, which accompanied by the rapid growing industrialization and also urbanization, and also the rising population and land degradation. And this all brings the challenges of climate change, energy insecurity, and ecological insecurity, which are not just short-term phenomenon, but pervasive, the trend. And also widespread of environmental degradation, which endangers the ecosystems and the freshwater resources, and increased congestion and pollution, and rising energy and water solid waste, and new material demand. And I think this is all why the green economy starts, and green economy sees this as the root cause of this is market failure. And so they were trying to, at the beginning, before UNEP was initiating, bring this back to life, was that they put the market value, the monetary value on the ecosystem services. And key suggestions from ISAP discussions from yesterday and today is 3 Ls, and sustainable consumption and production, and low carbon development, transportation, and the buildings, and phase out fossil fuel subsidies, and the subsidies have negative impacts on environment, and also technology transfer as usual, and financial mechanisms and assistance, and development of renewable resources. And there wasn't much discussion, but indirectly education and changing mindset and behavior has been mentioned. And that what has been missing is there's other policies for reducing carbon dependency discussed among the experts. Direct emission policies, and carbon taxes, and carbon quotas, and also cap and trade, and subsidies to greenhouse gas emission abatement, and technology push policies, and subsidies to R&D in low carbon technologies, and public sector R&D in low carbon technologies, and strengthened patent rules, and the government financed technology competition with award system. And so we've been talking about the financing. Whenever we are in the multinational negotiation meeting, financing, capacity building, and technology transfer always comes out. And all these three, among the three, the rest of capacity building and also the technology transfer, I think it is attached to the financing issues. And so already the implemented financing mechanism is the Global Environmental Facility, GEF, and the Adaptation Fund, and I missed out this, and the International Payment for Ecosystem Services, and the reduced emissions from deforestation and the forest degradation, RED Plus scheme, which is part of the IPBEST. And the not yet implemented the financing mechanisms under discussion is global carbon cap and auction system, and the global carbon tax, international finance facilities, sovereign wealth fund, and financial transaction tax, currency transaction tax, and the airline travel tax, aviation or shipping fuel tax, and arms trade tax, and the tobacco excise tax. All these, the financial mechanisms under discussion is based on the compensation, the principles. So it's those countries who conserve and the regions conserve the nature and the environment, ecosystems and environment, they are doing this alternative to the development. And so to them, it is an opportunity cost. So this is a compensation mechanism for this opportunity cost. And also it is based on polluter pays principles and also user pays principles. And this is, I think, we have to soon adapt these policies to come out with necessary financial resources to assist the developing countries. And also this is based on common but differentiated responsibilities. So the question is how to make suggested global green economy policies and instruments to work. This is purely comes from my own experience in UN system for the last 5 years. First, fill the gaps between upstream and downstream. What I mean upstream, downstream is that what most UN agents does, and also some of the international, the institutions involved in assisting developing countries do is capacity building and assisting the developing laws and regulations and governance system and so on. But having that self will not work if it is not operational, if there is no investment in infrastructure, and then it will not work. That's why many of UN agencies and some of the other institutions involved in assisting developing countries doing the same thing over and over again in a periodical sense. And also, it does not help operational capacities. It does not build operational capacities. So these gaps between upstream and downstream has to be filled. And also, there is a knowledge gaps and the capacity and resources. Developing countries, they do not have knowledge and capacity and resources. And so we have to provide this. That's why this financial mechanisms is necessary. And also, customized governance and institutional system. You may have a different view on this with me, but what I have experienced is that the standardized governance system, Western-style governance system, does not work in many developing countries because they have different cultures and different the customs and so on. So to them, this standardized Western-style the governance system, it is having somebody else's outfit. So it doesn't fit to them. So it is very uncomfortable to them. And so that's why they couldn't actually exercise those systems. Of course, there is some other reasons, but this is one of the reasons I have observed. And then apply affordable, adaptable, and applicability, the principles. What it means, it is also linked to the need for the financial assistance and mechanisms and so on, because if developing countries cannot afford the technologies or the certain knowledges and so on, and it is not adaptable, that they cannot just, if it is even out there, available, if it is available, they cannot use it. So it has to be affordable, adaptable, and applicable. And also apply truly global or regional welfare improvement principles. Yesterday, we were discussed about the regionalization. What I mean truly, the reason I underline the truly is that we are talking about, at the multilateral meetings, global well-being of the global society. But what we actually do, we already have our own national position. And then go there, and then based on that, we negotiate. So the outcome is not for the helping developing the countries. And so we have to look at, because we are connected, if developing countries are in difficult position and economically, socially, and environmentally, it will not just stay there. It will have a spillover effect, negative spillover effect to neighboring countries and eventually the countries in distance. And so we have to look at, regardless of our ethnic groups and nationality, we have to look at how to improve the welfare of the people in this world. And also education available to all. One thing we learned from the emerging economies was in developing country status and then become the middle income or the emerging economies of blossoming the economies. Education has been the key. It's the people who is making the difference at the end of the day. And so the education has to be available to all. And also for this, all the able countries around the world also has to work with and with developing countries to educate them. Let me give you an example. As most of you know, my friends knows, I'm a Korean. Then how we built this, education was the key. And one of the things is we were financed by the developed countries, universities, and governments. And so we get the free education in United States and in Europe and in these countries. And that has built the human capacities and human resource, the basis. And so that's what it has to be done. And also when technology transfer comes, we all have to go with the package. First, what I mean is package is technology transfer, but you have to have a capacity to maintain the technology. You have to have a capacities to operate the technologies. So technology transfer itself is not the solution. And so everything has to come in package. So from our past experience, we have to learn what are the gaps, what are the ones that does not make all these assistance substantive and the transformative differences. And so when we fill that gap, then I think we will be able to make this world better for the people, and also we can conserve the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Park, for your very good presentation. In a sense, wrapping up all the important points discussed in various sessions of this forum. He, in particular, touched upon the financial aspect and the capacity and technology and governance. And these are actually the common elements to promote sustainability agenda. And these are quite important now and for the future in Asia. Now, Peter and myself are going to act like a discussant here and taking up some important issue for the future of green economy in Asia. And now I'm going to ask Peter King, Dr. Peter King, to have a brief intervention about how to promote the green agenda here. Dr. King has been the senior policy advisor to IGES for many years. And actually, he has been promoting a lot of important studies we have had with ADB and UNEP and other international organizations in this region. And he has been the leading expert in IGES to publish IGES's flagship product white papers in a number of times. So Peter, please.
Thank you very much, Mori-san, for those generous words of introduction. During the session on sustainable consumption and production, we heard a lot about the 3 R's. In the last session, which was dealing with the post-2015 agenda and sustainable development goals, we heard about 5 E's. What I would like to do is talk to you about the 4 C's of regional integration. And so we'll have an alphabet soup by the time we finish. As many of the speakers have said over the last 2 days, Asia-Pacific is the engine of global economic growth. And I think everyone would agree that it cannot yet be regarded as sustainable growth. And so that is the long-term objective. Now, regional cooperation is definitely contributing to that growth, and regional cooperation is beginning to emerge into regional integration. And for those of you who are familiar with some of the regional and sub-regional cooperation mechanisms, you will know the definition of each of these terms, but for the layperson, it is extremely confusing. We have, for example, TPP, we have APEC, we have ASEAN, we have SAARC, we have PIF, we have CROP, we have GMS, we have BIMP-IAGA, IMT-GT, BIMSTEC. These are all economic cooperation arrangements that are operating here within our region. For those of you who would like to know what they all mean, let me just go through them quickly. TPP is the Trans-Pacific Partnership. APEC, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. SAARC, South Asia Regional Cooperation. PIF, Pacific Island Forum. CROP, Councils of Regional Organizations of the Pacific. GMS, the Greater Mekong Subregion. BIMP-IAGA is Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, East Asia Growth Area. IMT-GT is Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand Growth Triangle. And BIMSTEC is Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand Economic Cooperation, which was started under former Prime Minister of Thailand, Thaksin. Now, all of those economic cooperation arrangements essentially involve the 4 C's. And the 4 C's are connectivity, commerce, communication, and community. And I'll go through those and explain why regional integration can actually be regarded as a dual-edged sword. It can either result in a race to the bottom, or it can result in a race to the top. And it will depend on the choices that are made in relation to each of these C's. So connectivity refers to the physical infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, the railways, the airports, that bring countries closer together physically and allow additional intra-regional commerce. And the commerce is the intra-regional trade that takes place and cross-border arrangements in terms of customs and tariff arrangements, etc. Communication is overcoming the barriers of language and culture which characterize the diversity of the Asian region. And community is ultimately the result of the combination of connectivity, commerce, and communication, and results in peace and security and a shared sense of community. Now, each of these 4 C's actually needs to introduce sustainability if regional integration is to lead to a green economy. For example, connectivity could be environmentally damaging if the roads are going through formerly remote forest areas and opening those up to development. Airports and bridges, if not designed and implemented appropriately, can have major environmental implications. And so connectivity needs to be based around the notion of sustainable infrastructure. In terms of commerce, once you open up the roads and the bridges and the borders between countries, there is a possibility of illegal trade, illegal logging, illegal wildlife trade, drug movements across borders, people trafficking, and other side effects of opening up communications between the different countries. And so the alternative would be to foster the commerce and trade in environmentally sound goods and services. And so choices need to be made in relation to these. In relation to community, we can have a shared sense or a shared vision of a sustainable future, or we can have crass commercialism and pursue essentially the capitalist model of each individual for himself or herself. And then finally, the regional integration in terms of the ultimate beneficiaries must be inclusive and resilient communities and protection of the natural resources on which those communities ultimately rely. Now, there are some other C's. I could have given you a few more C's, but they're actually counter to regional integration. Corruption is one of the big ones, and a potential barrier for cooperation. Competition is another. Competition between countries for essentially the same markets, producing the same products and trying to compete for the same markets, driving down prices and ensuring the race to the bottom. And finally, conflict. And it should be recognized that much of the regional integration which is currently taking place in Asia is because we're living through relatively peaceful times. And those of you who are gray-haired like myself will remember that Asia was not always at peace. And so we are benefiting to some extent from a peace dividend. And I won't mention the other sea, which is the South China Sea, because that would be controversial. The bottom line message I think that I would like to leave with you is that regional integration is indeed the next step from regional cooperation, and there will be increasing attempts to move in this direction. It can lead to a green economy, but it won't get there unless the right choices are made. And so the key issue is to ensure that attention is paid to the sustainability aspects of each of these 4 C's. As Mori-san said, we produce significant flagship publications called the White Paper on a regular basis, and you would have seen the last one, which was on greening governance, and hopefully everyone has read that. Our next white paper will actually deal with this question of how to ensure that regional integration contributes positively to a green economy. And your ideas and suggestions will be most welcome. Obviously, we won't be able to hear from every one of you this afternoon, but I would encourage you all to write to us with your suggestions and ideas for inclusion in that publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for your very interesting presentation, proposing 4 Cs plus a couple of other Cs in connection with regional integration, which is progressing in this region in various forms. Thank you very much. Now, before I open the floor for questions and your observations, let me make a few points for your consideration. What really matters is perhaps a need for all of us to change how we see the situation in this region. Dr. Zachary already mentioned biodiversity conservation and ecosystem services, not as a constraint, but opportunities. And also the way climate change issues are being looked at these days are changing. Until several years ago, the way it was looked like was like burden sharing. So actions to deal with climate change were considered as burden. But now it is being discussed more in terms of opportunities, challenges and opportunities, opportunities for green growth. So that is a very important point to make. The way we look at things should be changed. And in this connection, I'd like to make 4 points for your consideration. It's about features of Asia. First, if we compare this region, Asia, with Europe, many people say integration of Europe is really feasible because economic level of development in European countries are more or less similar. But here in Asia, economic level of development are so different from country to country. And therefore, this argument says it is almost impossible for Asian countries to be truly integrated. But therefore, a lot of differences in terms of economic development. But if we look at this one from different angle, that means countries in Asia are complementary to each other. Strengths are different, and therefore, if countries in Asia can work together, that would be helping to each other. Therefore, in that sense, this difference may be understood as opportunities for Asian countries for constructive collaboration. Then Asia, as you know very well, is the most populous region in the world. About 60% population live in Asia and continue to do so. It is really a burden, in a sense, to provide enough food and shelter for this huge number of people. It could be a burden, but people are the source of economic growth. And therefore, if we think this huge human resource as not something of burden, but the source of innovation and others, this could be also made into something very positive for green growth. And the next point I'd like to make is relative small natural resource base in Asia. Asia has such a big population, and compared to this big population, natural resources we have may be limited. And therefore, Asia as a whole need to be dependent upon other regions like Africa and others for food, minerals, oil, and others. And this is, again, perhaps considered as disadvantage. But this relative lack of resources make Asia innovative in resource efficiency and others. And I think that would be, therefore, could be turned into driving force for innovation in Asia. Lastly, diversity in culture, religion, and others. This is also a very important feature of Asia. And this tends to be also understood as a potential source of conflict, the last thing you have mentioned. But this difference could be turned into something positive as well. Difference is the source of new ideas. And if we change this difference in culture and religion and others into constructive communications or discussions among different stakeholders, then Asia will be really the source of new ideas and innovation as well. So this way, if the way we look at Asia could be changed into something positive, then perhaps we may think of a lot of forums, channels to promote green agenda. So this is something just I'd like to make before opening up the floor for comments. But these are the kind of observations I have had through various sessions we had this time. So thank you very much for your attention. Now the floor is open for your questions and observations as well. Please feel free to make comments and questions.
Thank you very much. You are very thoughtful and very wide coverage thought. My name is Hiroshi Tokuma with Global. I have one opinion regarding the sustainable development leading to the green economy, especially in Asia, where various developing stage exist. So in order to solve this kind of things, first, this sustainable development of a green economy, first priority should be focused on the human well-being, safety, and security. Then, for example, biodiversity contributes to realize such a things. So, in this ground, we have to establish not only one universal goals, maybe dynamic goals, depending on the stage of the country's developing degree. So it means some countries' capital, as Mr. Park mentioned, can't digest modern technology or some kind of high degrees education. But more practical way we can provide, or we can mutually help from their way of life and our way of life, which wasting a lot of energy resources. So dynamic structure, stage by stage goals will lead to the eradication of poverty and the improvement of quality of life. If we implement these things, we can more easily integrate regional, not only economic cooperation, but also social cooperations. I think in addition to this, one more thing I propose, since Asia Pacific, as you know, recently, very significant hazard occurs, like earthquakes, tsunami, and in several regions. So in order to maintain such a sustainable development, we should implement resilience in the society in this region. Maybe this applicable to other regions too. This is vital and very urgent issues. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. A gentleman back there.
Yeah, hello, my name is Volker Morfer. I'm from the United Nations University Institute of Advanced Studies. I would like to somehow combine the three presentations, the short presentations, and ask Professor Zakri what he would see as the challenges, the chances and obstacles of regional integration for biodiversity in specific terms. And I would like to ask Dr. Park which challenges and obstacles he would see for the environmental issues in general from regional integration. And perhaps, Peter, you could afterwards reflect on the answers a bit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other points to make? Yes. Okay, first. Yeah, I have 3 hands, here, there, and here. Okay, first, Matsushita.
Thank you very much. I'm from IGES, as well as I'm working for Kyoto University. My name is Matsushita. Thank you very much for splendid presentations. So far, ever since the onset, the international community have always struggled to aim for sustainable the growth and development. And at Rio Plus 20, once again, the green economy that should be utilized to achieve sustainable growth, and that was agreed. But what may be the challenge, be it sustainable growth or the low carbon, low emission society and green economy to be achieved, to try to mainstream in the policy making, or to try to have environmental policies to be integrated into the other main policies, so that from the early stage, environmental considerations and sustainability will be positioned in the mainstream policy making is something very important. Economic integration is progressing very rapidly in Asia, and we see free trade agreements as well as the regional or cooperative arrangements are being realized. But in the actual process for integration, as well as in the FTAs, almost always there are nothing mentioned. No consideration is given for environment in most cases. So I would like to hear your views. In the regional integration process, how can sustainability or environmental considerations to be introduced into the mainstream of the debate? If you have any good ideas, please.
Gentleman over there, wearing a blue shirt. Yes.
Thank you for those excellent presentations, and it's been a wonderful event throughout, really. My name is Richard Rastall from Nippon Koi. I want to raise what I feel is an enormous elephant in the room. We heard about elephants at lunchtime, white ones and green ones and yellow ones. But if we want to achieve a real paradigm shift, a real change in the way that our society and our economy works, we need to really look at the drivers behind our current global capitalist system, basically, and which we have, as we've already demonstrated several presentations today, is exploitative of our natural capital, and it is also hugely socially inequitable. This is absolutely obvious and clear. So who are the main actors behind that? So we have to look at our major financial institutions. So Dr. Park's presentation was very good and looked at a lot of the solutions, but I thought this was not really there in terms of looking at the solutions, in terms of regulating them, to some extent significantly restructuring them, and beyond those financial institutions, also the major corporations, and the major corporations of this world are in this nuclear and energy complex, which is channeling a lot of this investment towards really quite exploitative and unsustainable practices. So if we want a green economy, then if we can look very critically and strongly in this area, we will begin to resolve a lot of the issues, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then Hirono-sensei, the last question.
Dr. Hirono. I'm Hirao of Seike University. Thank you very much. There was a proposal from two gentlemen with Mr. Mori. On that point, economic integration is progressing in Asia. That is true. And there are many indices, so which is very self-evident. However, the problem is that even though the economic integration is making progress, but what is the result of that? So we have to think about it. There are 3 points in this regard. One is, in the Asian economic integration, each country in Asia has a unequitable distribution of wealth, which is more and more taking place. And how we are going to balance that with the green economy, we need to have a thoroughgoing discussion on that. Second, when we look at the Asian countries, yes, economy is growing in the process of economic integration. Japan, for instance, is one. However, 2-digit unemployment rate is observed in Japan, in China as well, in the youth, among the youth. And again, even when one graduates from Beijing University, one cannot find a job. And so the youth unemployment ratio is very high because of the economic integration. Unfortunately, what each company is expecting, for the lack of a better term, is that they want to use skilled workers rather than hiring unskilled young people. So they tend to have a rather short-sighted views, so which is really regrettable, but the youth unemployment is very high. We need to pay attention to that. Because of high unemployment of the youth, we need to take countermeasures, and then there will be more financial say, spending by the government. Therefore, they come up with the financial deficits. And only Singapore is the country where they don't suffer from financial deficits. All the rest of the countries suffer from it. Now, third, the economic issue is drawing greater attention. So the awareness has increased. There's eco-city, and so there are a lot of activity. Therefore, the awareness has enhanced. However, in the process of economic integration, as Dr. Matsushita mentioned, to what extent the environmental management has been improved? I don't think there's any clear-cut answer to that. So in today's discussion, in terms of, in connection with the economic integration, the unequal distribution of wealth and the unemployment of the youth and environmental management, for these 3 points, I'd like you to pay attention to those and take up those points. Thank you very much.
I have plenty of questions and points, and therefore may I ask first Dr. Zachary to make your comment on a few issues that has been addressed to you, including this question of resilience and poverty and social inequity in relation to biodiversity conservation.
Thank you, Chair. I may wish to attempt answering only one question by Volker, which is very interesting. You're asking me how can we achieve regional integration in the Asia-Pacific in biodiversity and ecosystem services. I think one of the challenges which is still unresolved, if you look at the Convention on Biological Diversity, the third objective of the convention is, the first one is conservation of biodiversity, second, sustainable use of its components, third is access and benefit sharing of genetic resources. And you know, in the Asia-Pacific, in developing Asia, at least 3 countries are mega diverse countries. These are Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. Australia is also a mega diverse country, but they are a developed country. And these countries and many more, maybe including Cambodia, Vietnam, and others, are what we call gene-rich countries. On the other hand, there are the technology-rich countries in the region. Say Japan, South Korea. And again, Australia is everything on both counts, you know, or maybe also New Zealand. So think about, and this question, Volker, about access and benefit sharing is still unresolved. People are shying away. There is the so-called Nagoya Protocol on access and benefit sharing, which was agreed about 2 years ago. But I was informed there's barely 40 countries among almost 200 UN member states who have already signed up on this treaty. People are shying away because they don't have the model on how to cooperate. So if these countries could work out a scheme, you know, for cooperation, I think this would be the beginning of regional integration on biodiversity and ecosystem services. It's so intriguing, but it's so unresolved. At one time, people thought biodiversity is the green goal, you know, but there's no such thing. There's a lot of investment that you have to make to turn products from the jungle, you know. It's much easier to sell your crude palm oil to the highest bidders. So I think that's one aspect that I like to leave here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then, Dr. Park, I would like perhaps you to respond this need for different dynamic targets for each country to promote green economy, and also how to deal with fundamental weaknesses of globalizing capitalistic capital market system, which includes social inequity and unemployment.
Thank you. Yes, I think I agree with you. The step-by-step approaches and more, rather than standardized approaches, that is more appropriate. And also, I think that's what we call the tailored or customized approaches, because the countries do not have all the capacities they can apply and use for the, say, the advanced and sophisticated technologies. So step by step. But I think there is always the countries need such a technologies. They always demand for the most sophisticated ones. I think that's the dilemma. And because part of it, to me, it is a distrust, lack of trust. And so if we can find a way to overcome this trust, to build trust, and then this step-by-step, that could be the workable. And also on the regional integration and challenges of mainstreaming environment policies and so on, and the regional cooperation is seems to work well, but no cooperation on sustainable development or environment and so on. Yes, I think main reason of the many is the lack of the commitment by the leaders, and still they focus on the environment. And let me give you an example. Recently, we with ASEAN, we developed the partnership, the letter of intent, and the cooperation. And then I saw this the statement agreed between UN and UN system and this one of the other intergovernmental bodies in the regional cooperation bodies. There was no mention about environment. And there was a disaster and the risk management collaboration work programs was discussed. And then it was requested, leave out the environment. Okay, and so that is the reality. Okay, and so we are still, yes, we have made the progress, but we are still facing with this, the challenges. And so what we talk and what we do, there is a still big gap. So there's homework and challenge we have. And yes, paradigm shift to end the capitalism. Yeah, it's probably the shareholder capitalism. That might be one of the reasons. And also, as you said, yes, if we can, the financial institutions and the insurance the institutions can participate in this sustainable development business into the evaluation policies, loan policies, and so on, it could make big difference. So I don't know whether the current voluntary approaches is appropriate or more regulatory approaches is appropriate. To me personally, I prefer the regulatory approaches, and they require the financial institutions when you make loans and on your evaluation, you have to have this environmental and the sustainable development related elements and so on. That's my personal preference. Hirono-sensei, yes, you have come with very difficult questions. And I think, unfortunately, whether it's a green economy or green growth and whatever it is, still we don't have actual empirical outcomes. It is the experts believe this is the way to go, and so we are doing it. And for example, in Japan, carbon tax is imposed, and Japanese government using this carbon tax as a climate fund, and then use this to promote sustainable, more environmentally friendly and sustainable activities. So how it will contribute to the increase in employment and social equity and improve the biodiversity and the natural conservation, I think it is still remain to be seen, but I think we have to have a faith in it, and we have to work together. And because we have been talk a lot of the policies and instruments, but we haven't done much on this, in some sense, precautionary sense. End-of-pipe control, yes, we have achieved a lot. But on the precautionary and preventionary side, we are just beginning. And so I think we have to work together, and we have to have a confidence in this system, and we have to support the government who is doing and leading these activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then lastly, may I ask Dr. King to respond the need for mainstreaming sustainability agenda into economic integration discussions.
Thank you, Mori-san. I think, firstly, this region has lessons to learn from the rest of the world in how this might be done. For example, in the United Kingdom, there is no policy, no legislation introduced without what's called an integrated sustainability assessment. And the minister responsible has to sign off on the policy that he's satisfied that environmental, social, and economic issues have been adequately addressed in consideration of the policy. That, to me, is a pretty sound way of ensuring mainstreaming of sustainability into government decision-making. Also in this region, we have very few countries who have adopted strategic environmental assessment for policies, plans, and programs. And this has proven to be a very powerful tool for looking at mainstreaming environmental and social issues into the upstream planning processes. Nearly every country in the region has adopted environmental impact assessment. Some have social impact assessments, some have health impact assessments. But very few countries in the region have actually adopted strategic environmental assessment. And this would be a major advance if there could be agreement within the region to adopt this as standard practice for policies, plans, and programs.
Thank you very much. And we have about 10 minutes now over the allocated time. Just let me make the final one point. Over the rich discussions we have had in these ISAP sessions, and your views and observations, we try to be reflected into a new publication we plan for 1 year from now. Next year at ISAP, we are going to launch our white paper 5, focusing upon the way forward to promote green economy. And therefore, all the discussions here, I hope will be contributing to that. And we set up a kind of mechanism in our website so that if you have further views and opinions, you could make comment and send to us regarding this new publication we are planning. So thank you very much for very good discussions with your comment and advice. And also, I'd like to thank 3 distinguished panelists to make this final session very interesting. Thank you very much.
Dr. Zachary, Dr. King, Dr. Park, Dr. Mori, thank you very much. Now we will be moving on to the closing session. We need to prepare the stage, so if you could bear with us for a few moments. Those of you who have participated in the poster session, if you could please come forward and closer to the stage. Thank you.
It's my honor. I've been honored again.
ステージの準備ができたようですので、閉会セッションを開始。
Since the stage is ready, we'd like to have a closing session. First is we are going to have a poster session ceremony, poster session award ceremony, ISAP Audience Award. Now ISAP speakers are voted for ISAP award, and so we're going to have two awards, Audience Award and ISAP Award. For those students who join the poster session, please come onto the stage. I'll call your names, so please come onto the stage. Yokohama National University, T.D. Aung. UN University, Byung-Jong. Winner Hera of the UN University, Lee Soo-hyung of UN University, Yokohama City University, Ranjan Roy, Keio University, Muriari Arip, Yokohama National University, Wei Pyong-on, UN University, Cheba Pustai, the poster session advisor, New York State University, Storybrooke main tune, is going to make a comments. Dr. Nei Tun.
Professor Hamanaka, distinguished participants, and extremely gifted current and future leaders, I am again truly honored to be given this opportunity to take part in this session with Professor Hamanaka. Like many of you, I had the opportunity yesterday and part of today to look through all the 9 posters presentations. And I had an opportunity to talk to in depth with a number of the presenters, and I looked through all their presentations. I know it must be very difficult to come and select 1 or 2 or 3. If possible, all 9 should be the winners of this, because they have spent a lot of time, a lot of thinking in preparing these posters. I congratulate you. The topics you have covered is very, very wide-ranging, from investment mechanisms, indicators, biodiversity, how to predict the future of rice production in Bangladesh, etc., etc. Extremely relevant, extremely important, and I really salute you and commend you for the thought and effort you have gone into preparing these posters, and also the universities and your faculty member who have worked with you. And this is beginning to be the 2nd year, this feature, and I hope very much, and I'm sure it will, continue year after year, and hopefully you can spread the word around, and more universities, not only in the Kanagawa prefecture, but all over Japan, will take part in these poster sessions. They're really, really remarkable. And I am sure IJS would make a record in whatever way you are. IJS is very good in ITC, make a record, and make all these 9 posters available in the website, so that when people from all over the parts of the world wants to know what happened in ISAP 5 and all the presentations, they will also be able to see all these 9 posters that are being presented. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share in this wonderful achievement. Thank you very much. Thank you.
どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Next, from Professor Neytun, I would like him to present the certificate of making an entry to the poster sessions representing the participants. And I would like to invite Thierry Ong from Yokohama National University to step forward.
In recognition of the tremendous thinking, tremendous effort which has gone into preparing these posters, ISAP is very pleased to award each and every one of you these certificates of appreciation. I'm sure you will hang it up in pride when you go back to your universities and when you go back to your country. There are 9, each of you will get one, because in view of the time, we'll just present one as a sample, and the other 8 are all there. I checked to make sure that each of you will get one, and I've seen them, you will all get one. So may I just ask a sample, an example, to present one, and the 8 will follow later on, okay? Thank you very much.
So we
are going to now announce the ISAP Audience Award. ISAP Audience Award is on the assessment of vulnerability flood, a case study in Sambas Regency in Indonesia. This goes to Muryadi Arip of Keio University. Would you please come onto the center of the stage, please?
I'm extremely honored to give you the Audience Award. This certifies that Muryadi Arip, you have received Audience Award in the ISAP 2013 Students Poster Session. So, congratulations. Thank you very much for your participation.
続いて ISAP
Next, let us announce the ISAP Award. ISAP Award goes to the UNU, Lee Soo-hyun. Please come to the center of the stage for the poster title, Prima Facie Rule of Investment and Its Implications for Green Economy, and Dr. Neytun, who will present.
ISAP Award goes to you, and I'd like to congratulate you for winning it, and these were chosen by the speakers. So allow me to, on behalf of ISAP and on behalf of all the speakers, let's present this certificate to you. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to do something which the organizers is not in the program. You know, in Japan, everything is very, very, yeah. So allow me, because it's the last occasion, can throw me onto the plane and I go back. So allow me to do something different. I'd like to invite the chairman and the former vice minister, Professor Hamanaka, to join me into shaking hands with every one of them.
どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. With this, and we will end the post-sessions award ceremony. Dr. Neitun, Dr. Hamanaka, and all the students, thank you very much. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Hamanaka, the Chair of the Board of Directors of IJS, to give the closing remark. Mr. Hamanaka, please.
ご参加の皆様。
Distinguished participants and ladies and gentlemen, with the award presentation for the poster presentations, we will be ending the International Forum for Sustainable Asia and the Pacific 2013. We were able to successfully conclude the forum. I would like to thank all of you for remaining up until the end, for your very enthusiastic participation for each of the session of ISAP 2013. ISAP 2013 had the overall theme of paving the way for a sustainable Asia-Pacific regional perspectives on green economy. At green economy, the low-emission society to be created, and also the possibility in the urban areas, as well as the Satoyama region. We had the 3 plenary sessions as well as 12 parallel sessions, trying to improve the mitigating the climate change effects, and also to have integrated the approach. We also had the lunch session on this topic. And during the ISAP at IJS is deeply involved in the low emission society building, the LCSR net, and also low car net. For these the major networks have had their meetings, and right now they are perhaps continuing their discussion, and we had the joint session with these networks. We have thus tried to reinforce our collaboration. So inclusive of all the participants, more than 900 people have participated for the past few days. For 2 days, for the ISAP, for the different sessions, once again, I would like to thank all of you for your participation. I myself have also participated in different parallel sessions, but I was not able to attend all of them. But even so, for example, today during the morning, the low emission society had to be created for the collaboration amongst these cities, and also the new fund transfer to be promoted. That's to say, the green gifts and so forth. Those were some of the actual examples, as well as the policy recommendations, and I was able to listen to a very interesting discussion and debate. And through these sessions, the green economy was the overarching theme, and how to realize the green economy. Some of the specific cases and ideas were presented. And we have just concluded the last plenary session. The theme was the pathway towards a green economy. I believe there is still a remaining necessity to further deepen our discussion, but as was mentioned by President Mori as well as Dr. Peter King of IJS have introduced in the plenary session 3 with 2015 ASEAN economic integration to have the green economy as well as sustainable development and society to be built. The 5th IJS the white paper will be published next year in July. And at the ISAP, we were given various inputs during the discussion, and we would like to reflect those ideas and viewpoints in the white paper. As Mr. Mori has mentioned earlier, I would like to continue to solicit the various inputs from all of you through the website. ISAP has seen the 5th round of the forum at this time, and we would like to have follow-up activities to be well coordinated, and we have designed the system itself. With a low-carbon society to be created, we need a persistent and continuous efforts in the long term. Just one country or just one institution or one company cannot achieve this. This is indeed a major scale of the theme. All the different actors need to collaborate and work together so that we can see continuous partnership, and that alone would make the future possible. And I just have tried to connect the stakeholders with different backgrounds and work as the good partners under the ISAP framework. Lastly but not least, I would like to thank all of you for your kind participation in that we were able to have a very fruitful discussion for the past 2 days. I would like to express my sincere gratitude, and taking this opportunity, I very much hope that all of you who will continue to give us your kind support. This is the end of ISAP 2013. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair Hamanaka. With this, we conclude ISAP International Forum for Sustainable Asia and the Pacific 2013. Thank you so very much for having joined ISAP this time. Thank you so much. Please return the simultaneous interpretation receivers to the reception. I'll remind you one more time to check your pockets and bags. As for your trash, there's a dustbins next to the escalator, so please take the trash